Hello, everyone. This is Joe Slezak, Director of Marketing and Business Development with H2R CPA. I'm joined today by Kieran and Jeff Wolstoncroft because last week the Treasury/SBA provided some additional insight into the PPP loan program. Kieran, as we've been monitoring the PPP loan process from the application phase to the forgiveness phase, we've been recommending our clients patience. And there has been some additional insights with the announcements last week as maybe some small steps forward in regard to PPP loan forgiveness for some clients. So my question to you is, what advice can you provide to our clients as far as the PPP loan forgiveness process as it stands today?
Joe, that's a good question. So we have been kind of preaching patience the entire way as we go through the forgiveness application stages and even seeing how it unfolds. I don't think that has really changed, although at this point we do have a little bit more of an update and some clarity around the type of application that each borrower will have to fill out. So we had been talking about, and there's been this concept of blanket forgiveness that a lot of people have been waiting to see. And we're hoping that Congress was going to pass something, and I think the number we had originally thrown around was about $150,000. So Congress is having a bit of an issue passing a next stimulus bill, so we don't know what changes that would make to the PPP loan program. But the Treasury and the SBA, I believe, started to feel the fatigue of the questions people were asking about when they can apply. So they've recently come out with a new application, which Jeff will talk a little bit about more in a second. But at this point, we now have three applications: the simplified application, an easy application, and the full application. So, and at this point, most clients and companies have spent all their money during their covered period. Although the 24-week covered period might not be over for some people, the funds are probably exhausted at this point. So what we're telling clients now, and what we're working with clients on now, is just getting your applications together. I still think you should have some patience when it comes to actually submitting your application to the bank. The banks are still working out these kinks and how they're going to accept these. So talking with your bank to make sure what that process is going to look like is important. But now I think you know which form you can use. And we're helping clients figure out which that is. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about the specific forms in a minute. But now that you know which form you should probably fill out and you've exhausted your funds, it's probably worthwhile now to start documenting that, gathering all your information and getting it together. If you actually apply to your bank, when you actually apply to your bank will kind of be an individual company by company decision. I think right now, if you don't have a compelling reason, I would still suggest waiting a little while to make sure that the process doesn't change or that you're just not the guinea pig. One of the things that we're getting asked a lot about is change in ownership type questions. So if a company is for sale or if you have owners that are buying out other owners, there are some limitations of what you can do in those situations with the PPP if you've received PPP funds. So there is some guidance out there. I think those people are probably in a hurry to get a forgiveness application in and get forgiveness granted so that they can move forward with their transaction. But for other companies, unless you had a very simple application, I would still suggest waiting a little bit before you actually turn it in, but you can start to gather the information and pull it all together now.
So Jeff, as Kieran just referenced, the SBA has a new simplified form for loans under $50,000. What insight can you provide to our clients in regard to this new simplified form that was released last week?
Right, Joe. The SBA came out with a new S form, which exempt borrowers from the FTE and salary reductions if you borrowed $50,000 or less. This is significant to many borrowers through the PPP program, as 2/3 by quantity of borrowers were $50,000 or less. It's not a significant dollar amount to the whole program, and hence why the SBA was able to use their administrative powers to give this forgiveness application to these borrowers under $50,000. We still have the forms that were released earlier in the summer, the easy form, which has its own caveats where you have to self-certify that you didn't have the reductions, or the full form if you do have salary or wage reductions. With all the forms, you still must spend all the money on allowable cost, and at least 60% of those funds need to be spent on payroll. to get full forgiveness. You will still need to show your calculation for the simplified form to your bank, and so you will still need to work up the calculation and submit it with your application along with the documents to back up your costs. The other caveat to the new simplified form is if you're part of an affiliated group with borrowings of $2 million or more for the affiliated group, you would be exempt and you would have to use the full form.
Jeff, in addition to the simplified application that was released last week, there was also a clarification in regard to the charging of interest and the repayment of the PPP loan. Could you maybe provide some insight in that update that was released last week as well?
Right, Joe. Last week, the SBA and Treasury issued a new FAQ outlining when interest and principal would need to be repaid on these loans. Originally, it was 6 months, and that's what most of your loan documents will say from your bank. The clarification was following what the Payroll Protection Flexibility Act passed by Congress earlier this summer defined, allowing up to 10 months after your covered period to apply for forgiveness. As a result, interest will accrue and payments will be deferred until either 10 months plus the 24 weeks of your covered period expire, or you apply and are granted forgiveness. We're still unclear how partial loan forgiveness will impact accrued interest, but our best guess is you'll be required to repay interest on the portion of the loan not forgiven from the loan inception date, but you will not be required to begin repayments until you have been notified of forgiveness or the 10 months plus 24 weeks time period has been expired. The FAQ also outlined that your bank is not required to, and we don't anticipate them issuing any type of modification to your original PPP loan document.
Kieran, during these challenging times, we've helped our clients with the PPP loan program since its inception. When the pandemic first hit, as far as the application process, to today, in helping them with the PPP loan program forgiveness. Can you provide some insight of just how we've helped our clients during this process?
Sure, Joe. At H2R, our goal is always to be trusted business advisors to our clients. So initially, it was helping them understand their cash flow needs and access to capital, whether that was through the PPP loan program or some of the other programs that were available at that time, such as the EIDL loan program through the SBA. But really, as the economy changed and lockdown happened, clients were nervous. So really spending time with them, helping them understand their business, helping them rationalize headcount decisions and other things as they tried to navigate how to get through the pandemic. So initially, we helped a lot of clients with the initial application, getting the funding, then going through and understanding how their new normal was going to affect and impact their business and their cash flow needs. And now, as we've kind of worked through the summer and things have returned for most businesses to what is a bit of a new normal, we're helping on the back end with applying for forgiveness and going through the process. And some clients, it's just advising and talking to them and being, again, a trusted advisor to listen to. And for other clients, we're actually filling out the forms and gathering the information. So as I mentioned earlier, and Jeff touched on, the loans are deferred. You have time to apply. They have now come out with the 3 different type of applications, so there's a little more clarity as to what you'll be filling out. But now's the time to start gathering the data and really understanding how this loan is going to impact you and your balance sheet. Whether you apply with the bank or wait a little while, again, that's really a personal decision for each company. But the mechanisms are now out there, and we don't see this changing anytime in the near future. As the election unfolds and different things happen in Congress, there might be some additional guidance or some changes to the program. But for the foreseeable future, I think we're working with what we have. So gathering the information, getting it ready. We've been working with clients to do that and to fill out their forms and just helping advise them during these challenging times.
Thank you, Kieran. And thank you, Jeff, as well for your time today. To our audience, please visit H2RCPA.com for additional insight into the PPP loan process and other relevant business information too. Stay safe and have a great day.